everybody, it's Mecha Draco coming to you with another video, and in today's video we're going to talk a little bit about gun control. Obviously in our nation today, and probably in the next couple of days, over the course of maybe a few weeks even, surprisingly enough, we are actually in a very heated time where we are discussing gun control in a much more adamant way because of the previous shooting as of recently there in the Parkland, where 17 children were in fact killed by, in my opinion, still another child, despite his age being about 19. The shooter apparently did use an AR-15. He went to the school, killed several individuals on the outside of the building, and then went on the inside and killed several individuals on the inside. And it just, was a pretty horrendous shooting. And I mean, it's, worst thing since Columbine kind of thing. It was bad. And there are a lot of proponents on both sides of the argument that I believe have some semi-decent arguments, but at the same time, the bigger issue is that I've been coming across is the use of individuals who were in the tragedy to push a narrative that is not very constitutional, as well as, of course, pushing that narrative to be a little bit more unarguable, is effectively the best way I can describe it. The idea is that not only are they utilizing individuals who were victims of a tragedy like this, but they are also using these individuals who are basically children. Now they are obviously in high school. They are a little bit older, so they're more apt with their words. They're more capable of actually speaking and everything like that. Unfortunately, they're still technically young, so they have kind of that level of protective speech in its own right. Effectively, they're above criticism almost to certain degrees. It's hard to criticize a child, let alone criticize a child who was a victim of a tragedy, when in reality, the truth is that that's exactly who you should be criticizing. Unfortunately, children don't exactly always know what the hell they're talking about. They don't really generally have an idea of the deeper nuances of the world around them because they haven't really interacted with the world around them. And that includes high school students. They may be a little bit more experienced than, say, like a 5-year-old or something like that, but that doesn't really necessarily mean that their opinions are solid ground. Now, I'm not saying that these individuals are in any way ignorant or stupid or wrong for what they've gone through. Of course, it was a horrible tragedy, and I just like everyone else in this entire world and the entirety of the Western civilization, unless you're the ones who going out and doing this kind of thing, believes that this was a tragedy and believes that this should never have happened. The unfortunate part is that it did, and we have to really look at the reasons why it happened. And yes, we could take guns away, but what would that solve? Nothing. Especially in our society today, especially here in America, taking guns away is simply not an option. And the fact is that that's one of the strongest things that I think a lot of people don't understand, is that you can't take guns away from Americans here in America. You cannot take guns away from Americans. They will literally rise up against you if you try to do so, and that's part of the problem. Now, that could very mean that maybe we're a little overzealous about our guns. And I can't necessarily say that's untrue, but I will say that at the same time, there is a reason why we have gun ownership as part of our rights as a country. There's a reason why the Second Amendment was put into our society, was made. And the reason why is because of the very fact that we were given the right to protect ourselves, not just from home invaders or anything else, but from actual domestic disputes with our own government. And that's something that a lot of people, especially nowadays, just don't understand. They've been indoctrinated into the idea that owning a gun is one of the worst things that you can possibly do, and it's the reason why things get all crazy and reason why bad things like this happen. Just because guns exist is the reason why all this stuff happens. Now, of course, the reality is that this isn't true. The fact of the matter is that if an individual wanted to go and kill somebody, they would go and kill somebody regardless. The real question comes is, how did an individual such as the previous gun shooter got the gun in the first place? I mean, he got it legally. He did. He legally got the gun. But the fact that he was able to get it because there was, just because of all of the things that have happened to him, as it's been said multiple times, police had gone to his home 39 separate times. Or I think it was 39, might have been 37. I sometimes mix those two numbers up for some reason. There is also the fact that there were quite a few individuals who have clearly stated that they saw something wrong with the individual, or with this individual, and there was evidence on his social media that he had problems. There were all these other things that go into precisely why he went and did what he did, and why he shouldn't have been able to get a gun. And even the FBI had investigated him, but instead of actually doing something about it, they let it happen. Now, a lot more other individuals would probably go on the whole super heavy conspiracy nut crazy level of stuff to say like, oh, well, the FBI knew it was going to happen, so they let it happen, so that way they could push proponents of gun control because they're more heavily Democratic than they are Republican or some shit like that. Which is, in my opinion, kind of stupid. That doesn't make any sense. Now, would I say there's incompetence there in the FBI? Yes, I would definitely say there is. Mind you, other people bring up the good information of saying that technically the FBI are not the individuals who are supposed to be taking care of this kind of problem. It's not their job to go and deal with this kind of stuff. However, that doesn't mean that they shouldn't still be looking at this investigation and giving the information that they have to, like, the people who should be taking care of this problem, such as the local police, who have been there 39 times. They should have already acted against this. Now, I'm not saying that this individual should have been arrested. He technically did nothing illegal until he did something illegal to actually warrant being arrested. However, the fact that he was so heavily under investigation, since he was obviously such a heavy, problem for individuals such as, the police, and, well, obviously clearly a threat to the people around him. His parents apparently were individuals who actually said things about him. They were part of the reason why I believe he was called to their house, or on him and stuff. The fact is that because of this very fact, because of the fact that these individuals were involved, and because of the fact that these people have all been aware of what was going on, there should have been no reason for him to be able to have gotten a gun legally. But yet he did, because our system just made no effort to actually stop him from being able to do so. No one reported it. Somehow, for some reason, all of his domestic disputes or whatever it is that he was called on never caused, an alarm bell for him to not be able to get the gun. Or the fact that he was under investigation by the FBI, and for some reason the FBI never felt it necessary to tell anybody, or as far as I can tell anyways, never told anybody, or like the local police or something like that, that there was a problem and that he was under investigation for, whatever, and so on and so forth. And of course never take action because of his social media activity. Now, I realize that I've been on a bit of a rant here, just sort of giving stories about things that are going on and everything like that, but I kind of wanted to just set it up to give my opinion, which is kind of what I want to do with these observations of society, effectively. I just want to basically give my opinion, because in the long run, I don't really think my opinion's anything special, but that's the point. I don't think my opinion's anything really different than that of the normal American the normal American citizen. And in the long run, what my opinion is about all of this is that it's a load of shit. I mean, and honestly, I think that that's the easiest way I can describe it. I think that none of this is right. I think that, like, if anybody has actually watched the CNN town hall video, there's several individuals who've done videos on it, and I strongly suggest going to watch the actual CNN town hall interview. It's a very long watch. It's kind of a decent watch though. It's almost 2 hours, but it's pretty insane what they're pulling out on people here, because it's wrong. Well, I mean, in reality, I think it's actually quite wrong, because, as I said, they're using children, effectively children, who are basically above reproach, because not only do they have the children status, they are also on the I am a victim of a tragedy status. So it's them just pushing this narrative of gun control. And in the long run, there's no like end goal. Like there is an end goal, obviously, behind all of this for right now. And what they're doing is they're trying to ban every gun just individually. And they're just going to do it slowly over time, because that's just what they want to do. That's the easiest way for them to do it. Every time an accident, every time an incident like this occurs, any kind of incident like this occurs, they're going to talk about banning whatever gun was used until every gun is banned from use. That's just as simple as it gets. And eventually they will ban all guns. Eventually they'll just be like, there's no reason for anybody to have a gun in civilized society. Ban all of them. Now, I think we can look at certain societies in today and see how gun control actually does work. I think if we look at, say, Japan. Japan's a great example of gun control that actually does a very good job. However, the only real reason why Japan does a fantastic job with that particular issue is because, number one, it's actually a fairly small country. It's about only the size of California. It's a little, I would say it's bigger than California, but only by a small amount. Square mileage anyways. And the other thing is that Japan's also got a very, very well-trained police force. I mean, they actually go the full 9 yards of training their police force in martial arts and other things like that, so that they can actually engage with an individual who has, like, say, like a knife or something, or even a gun, and not have to resort to weapons like that. And that, of course, doesn't mean that they don't still actually utilize weapons there like that. They just don't very often. But, of course, that's another thing because of the fact that they are a fairly small country, and that helps. I mean, let's be honest here, population numbers and stuff like that help. But neither that really actually in the long run matters, simply because of the fact that we can look at even our society and see how gun control doesn't really work here. The reason why it doesn't work here in the United States is because guns are such a adamant part of our society. If anything, I would actually say less gun control is actually what we do need here in our society, simply because our society kind of wouldn't say runs, but it lives with guns. Our society lives with guns, so having less control over it, allowing more people to be able to utilize guns as a matter of protection would be better for us in the long run than more gun control. Because at this particular point in our in time, removing all of the guns, as I've said, would just end with us all being, like, pretty much end us in a civil war. The other issue is, of course, with the gun control we have in now, people aren't really able or even willing to protect themselves with guns against guns. And I realize it's kind of like a fire, fighting fire with fire kind of thing, and sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. But I think in our society, especially here in America, it's one of those things that we just absolutely kind of have to do. It's one of those things that if we as a society, as a big town, small town, whatever, take the effort to give individuals who are in the place to protect other individuals the ability to actually protect these individuals, then a good example, I would say, of this of a good work towards this goal would be something like the way what Mr. President, Mr. Trump, actually has suggested, which would be arming teachers. He didn't say arm all teachers. He specifically stated that he believed it would be a good idea to maybe arm about 20% of the teachers within a school, who are, of course, trained and proficient, and everything else along those particular lines. There obviously would be screened, and they would be, they would have a long process to probably go through to be able to utilize a gun in the classroom like that. And they probably wouldn't even have it like on their person like at all times, or they might. I don't really know. The point being, though, is that if these individuals, if teachers who were proficient with the weapon and actually skilled and everything else along those particular lines had a gun to protect themselves as well as the children within the school, then a shooting would probably be less likely to happen. They're less likely to actually have an individual. An individual would be far less likely to actually even get anywhere if some of these teachers had guns. And it would be even less likely that these individuals would even attempt the shooting in the first place if they knew that there were guns in the school. Now, I'm not saying that guns need to be in the school. What I'm saying is that teachers need to be able to protect themselves and the students that they are in charge of. And the only efficient way to do that is with a gun. Against a gun, the only real efficient way to protect another individual is with another gun. I mean, let's be honest here. Because once the actual engagement occurs, when one person brings a gun into the fight, the only real way to take that individual out is with another gun. You're not going to be able to overwhelm this individual with... I mean, you could overwhelm them with numbers, but then you'd probably have a lot of people die in the process. And that's just dumb, And the fact is that that's... in taking guns away is not going to take this individual's ability to get a gun. He's a criminal. He's a criminal. Excuse my language. He's a criminal. He's an individual who is set on breaking the law. He's set on going out and killing people. He said so on his social media. He said so on everything else. He is an individual who wants to kill people. He is going to do it. Now, whether or not he ends up bringing a knife or he ends up bringing a gun is neither here nor there. I mean, maybe had the AR-15 been banned, and I'm not going to say that this isn't true. I mean, this is part of the reason why I understand why people want to ban the gun. The idea is that if the gun was banned, then yeah, maybe he wouldn't have come in with that gun and killed people. However, if he had done any kind of research whatsoever, you could go and look to find out that there are plenty of guns out there that work exactly the same way as an AR-15 does. And it just doesn't look the same. But it causes just as much likelihood of killing somebody. And the fact is that it doesn't matter if it's a breech loading. It doesn't matter if it's a clip loading. It doesn't matter if it's made of wood. It doesn't matter if it's black. It doesn't matter if it's plastic. It doesn't matter. The fact is that he could probably have gotten one. And that we really need to be looking, what we really need to be looking at is how we can make it so that an individual like himself cannot get a gun, and how we can further protect individuals from being killed by just random shooters. And the only way to really do that is to arm individuals who can protect themselves. And the only way to do that is to allow for lesser gun laws so that citizens can protect themselves when they're out in the public, and that so teachers and other things like that can protect the children that they're supposed to be covering and protecting anyways, that they're in charge of. Now, I know I've been on a long rant here about all of this, and it's kind of one of those things that it's one of those things that's been really on my mind. Obviously, it's been everywhere, and it comes up every time there's a shooting, and I'm getting sick of hearing it. I'm getting sick of hearing about the how the answer is apparently to ban guns, and I'm tired of hearing it. So I just wanted to give my opinion on it. I wanted to put out a video for it, and I figured I could do something on Friday that's a little bit different than my gaming videos, and I'll just do like a political video or something like that on Fridays for you guys. So that seems to be the most legit way to do it. I am going to go on ahead and end the video there, though. I certainly do hope you guys did enjoy. You guys do certainly know the drill by now, I would hope. And of course, as always, guys, good luck out there. And don't forget to have fun.